Good afternoon, Trump family. Welcome to Open Source News. Hope you having a great weekend and God bless you. Alright, the following is a collection of news from Patriots. Let's get into the news this Sunday morning. And Katie Hobbs' floundering campaign for governor of the state of Arizona continues to flounder, as she thinks that she can own Kari Lake in the mean more own her on social media, and it continues to backfire on her, and of course, it backfired her on her as just as recently as yesterday, when she decided to tweet out a picture of a Kari Lake sign that seems to be crumbled down. I'm sure maybe one of her supporters actually helped do that. Maybe gave it a little bit of helping push down. But posted on social media, and the response by Katie or by Kari Lake was magnificent. This is how you deal with these unhinged people. In the Democrat Party, people like Katie Hobbs and others like Gretchen Whitmer, and those out there that are running on these tickets who are only focused on destroying this nation. This is how you mock them. You mock them into a cry, and then you of course mock them while they're crying. And that goes the same for meaning them, right? You mean them today cried, and you make means of them crying. This is what Kari Lake continues to do to Katie Hobbs. Katie Hobbs continues to hide every opportunity she gets whenever she's confronted by actual reporters, when she's confronted to actually do debate. What she does is runs off, hides in bathrooms, and refuses to even engage in any type of political discord, because she knows how terrible her ideas are. She knows how terrible the Democrat Party platform is. And she will continue to allow the mainstream media to do the work of electing her. So let's kind of dive into it. This was over here on social media, over on Twitter, and this is Katie Hobbs' official account over here. And she says live footage of Kari Lake's meltdown, really, because the only person I've seen melting down during this entire race has been Katie Hobbs. Again, I've mentioned many examples right at the very beginning of this, right? If what she continues to do refuses to engage in any type of discourse. So she has the audacity to go ahead and post this picture here. It shows her Katie Hobbs sign on nice and erect, and the Kari Lake sign bent down, looks like, again. Not saying that somebody did it, but it looks like somebody gave it a helping hand to be crushed down. So Kari Lake responded like the boss that she is. She said this, here's a meme. This was her actually. This was her. Katie Hobbs running away from a black reporter said when Katie Hobbs sees a black person, she runs away spilling her drink. That's right. She is scared of black people. If you guys don't know, she cost the state of Arizona like a few $1 million, because of her discrimination practices that she had in her own office, where she was discriminated against black people and it was provable. And she was sued. She was also in her yearbook. She was photographed doing a slave auction. Yes. So Democrat platform, my friends. They can't get away from it. And they pretend not to be part of it. But yeah, bam. I like to report a murder, my friends. That is how it's done. That is how you deal with someone as dishonest as Katie Hobbs. You sit there and you mock her. You meet her and you mean her why she cries. Absolutely brilliant. On the part of Kari Lake. That is, my friends, that house is you take care of your political opponents, especially when they're as weak as Katie Hobbs. Okay, now this is for all the lawyers and legal scholars, and law schools who think that Trump is the embodiment of corruption. If you accuse Trump of a crime, and you should probably gather as much evidence as possible to indict him if after 6 years, or 7 years from 2015 until today, he's been guilty of everything from working with the Kremlin to pressuring officials in other countries and in Georgia and New York. And if the best thing that New York has, for example, is a civil case against Trump, or the best thing the January panel has is for him to testify, you have nothing on the men. Okay. And so the difference is they could have indicted Clinton, but we don't think any reasonable prosecutor would indict 3 different with Trump. There were no laws broken with Trump. Say it slowly, morally superior, highly educated, wonderful, liberal Democrat, Trump did not break any laws. Otherwise, Merrick Garland would have. It's been 2 years now. It's like that meme, the Titanic, the old lady in the Titanic, like it's been 84 years. They might indict Trump and lose in a court of law. So they might, just because Hunter is going to get a plea deal or an indictment, and they're not even going to actually look into the graft and bribery there. But the criminality is so rampant, they'll have to do something. So they might actually indict him just because they can't knock him out of 24. They're going to lose the Senate, they're going to lose the House. And impeachment is right around the corner, and the average American is already sick of the Democratic Party. So imagine, and inflation and the economy, they're both going to get worse. We all know this. So when Democrats or Biden says, well, if Republicans win the Senate in the House, he knows they'll win the Senate in the House. The economy is gonna get worse. He knows the economy is already gonna get worse. I thought the Inflation Reduction Act is going to reduce inflation. The whole thing's nonsense. They're just trying to, in the most vapid, absurd manner, mask, they're all there. They're already inept and failed policies that are only going to get worse. Ladies and gentlemen, is probably the best thing that he can do. They don't want it live. They want a closed-door testimony. So we can read this right here. Trump wants to testify to the January committee, but only if they broadcasted live. New York Times reports. He might do it if it can be brought to broadcasts live on TV. Trump is likely to spend. Okay, so in the business, it's likely to split everything into propaganda victories. It's like, well, know that the entire, bogus panel, okay? He didn't commit a crime and the people who lost their lives were short Trump supporters. There was also an officer who did the day after. But there was an unarmed woman who lost her life. I thought the left cared about unarmed human beings, losing them. See, again, always hypocrisy. It's unbelievable. You cannot be a morally superior liberal Democrat and not live within this cloak, within this bubble of cognitive dissonance and hypocrisy. Socialists and progressives and liberals and Democrats love poor people. They love poor people so much, they actually cause the poverty with their completely apoplectic and irrational obsession with climate. It's an important issue. But you don't, please correct me if I'm wrong. If there's a wonderful, highly educated, morally superior liberal Democrat in AOC, Green New Deal, or in the Paris Climate Accords, did they say, to pump 200 million barrels of strategic petroleum reserves into the country? Because that's what Mashed Potato Brings Joe did, because his energy policies were a complete failure. Initially, he banned oil and gas companies from doing a whole bunch of things and then reversed course and said, you know what, we're okay with that. And it's your fault that you're not producing more. It's like, no, you made more difficult, they sued you. Oil and gas associations showed. Mashed Potato Brains Administration. Okay. Show within the lawsuits. If you read the lawsuits, they actually predict, look, the economy is going to suffer, inflation is going to go through the roof because of your policies. So make up your mind, Democrats. Do you want low gas? Do you want inflation to go down? Instead of rising inflation like we see now? Or do you want to save the planet, because you can't do both? According to Democrats, they have to save the planet, but they'll destroy the economy to save the planet, according to, and they're not even really abiding by their alleged value system. Because they take initial steps to go to battle with oil and gas, and say we want to decarbonize the planet. And then beg OPEC, and OPEC gives the, you know what it says now, we want, obviously, to make money. And oil is going to go back up well over $100 a barrel, inflation will go back up, and interest rates going up will do nothing. Interest rates have already gone up. And the Inflation Reduction Act led to inflation increasing the other day, year over year. It's getting worse. So what is the point of raising interest rates? What is the point of getting interest rates higher and raising them if inflation isn't even going to subside? Because it's the same Democrats that said, oh, well, you know what, if Republicans are in office, inflation is going to get worse. These are the same people who said that inflation is temporary. And you talk about information that misinforms. I mean, you could go down the list from economic statements to statements regarding what that we can't talk about. They're wrong about almost everything. And when they're wrong, they never admit it. They always backtrack. They have media, it's like this political amnesia we have. And they said, the numbers changed and the information changed. It's like, that's how come you haven't misinformed people. How can we? It's always people who dissent or offer an opposing viewpoint or a rebuttal. That is causing people to be, to listen to information that could lead them to a different conclusion than your own. My God. That's called democracy. Only Democrats want a ministry of truth. They wanted an actual government agency to decipher what's true and what's not, while at the same time, either lying through their teeth or being wrong on all of their predictions, and all of their claims, or a lot of their claims. The big reason we have this inflation in the economy and turmoil is the highly educated, morally superior experts and media push to tank and shut down economic activity. For around 2 years. That was an economic sin. That opened up a Pandora's box of enormous problems. But if Trump testifies he did not commit a crime, he would turn he's like, political. He's like the Obi-Wan Kenobi upon Ultrix. He's a black belt in jujitsu and also judo of politics. This man uses Trump usually, oftentimes, sometimes he messes up, but he almost always uses the momentum of Democrats against them, especially when he's not in the Oval Office. So he's actually a very good campaigner, but he lost the script a little bit on social media last year of his presidency. Shouldn't have been on Twitter. But if he would be on Twitter now, that it would be if he gets back on Twitter. I think he will. That'd be pretty awesome. Even if he has Truth Social still get back on Twitter, because he'll probably use Truth Social first and then later, like, hours later, use Twitter and write the same thing. But anyway, Trump goes and says, well, I haven't been indicted, and there was no evidence that I committed a crime. He should not. A Trump advisor bluntly told the Daily Basis, like, well, a Trump advisor isn't really going to speak to any liberal publications. So an actual Trump advisor is not going to really talk to liberal publications. So I might be wrong. Maybe the Daily Beast has, high-ranking members in Trump's administration. I don't think a higher-ranking member will speak to any liberal publication. Okay. It would be the absolute best thing. So he's required to answer for his actions. Well, answer to whom? A partisan committee with 2 never-Trumpers. It's not a thought bipartisan committee. The stupid, you have to be really stupid to think that it's a bipartisan committee when you have 2 people, one lost by 40 points, one who didn't even run for re-election, and who are part of a Republican Party that no longer exists. These are dinosaurs. The Mitt Romney, Mitch McConnell, they're still around, but they're like archaic. They're like dinosaurs. They belong in a museum, and eventually that, like in a couple of years from now, it'll be purely Trump Republicans who will focus on the economy and will focus on negotiating in Europe, for example, limiting never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts and wars and all of that. The anti-war candidate and the candidate that actually addresses poverty is Trump, not Democrats. We had record low poverty under Trump, says slowly, wonderful, morally superior socialist and highly educated liberal Democrat. Poverty was at a record low with Trump, 10.5%. It is at 15% now with Biden. Mashed potato braids. And we have a possible nuclear annihilation. But you know what? At least Trump isn't tweeting. Anyway, getting to Herschel Walker. You have the economy of the stock market. It's going to continue to tank. Everything's going to continue to tank for the next couple of weeks. But 3 weeks before November, be here for the live streams. We're gonna have an amazing time. Be here for the live stream tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, I guess really quickly, the main point that I forgot, he testifies, and he says, why haven't you indicted me? There's nothing to indict. You don't have any evidence. And he turns the tables on them. I mean, it's pretty simple. They don't want that. You would think if he was this mastermind is criminal, they would want the entire country to hear him speak. They don't want that. They do not want that. Because he didn't commit a crime. Okay. And so you're gonna have a man who didn't commit a crime, who hasn't been indicted, speaking to people that are simply partisan. They don't care about national security or democracy. These are the same people who cheated Bernie Sanders, and then blamed the Kremlin for informing us that Bernie was cheated. They can either don't even have a functioning primary. Getting to Herschel Walker. He's won Georgia. I think he's won Georgia. Now. You never look, Georgia. Has he? Never. You never know. I think the Senate will go Trump Republican. They're going to prolong finding out about the final candidate who is successful with just so the eventual champion, we might not find out immediately. That is an issue. But aside from that debate was fantastic. Herschel Walker. I mean, sealed his victory. You have to understand Warnock is only up, because he has all of media. Democrats are only up in a recession with rising interest rates, oil prices, economic decline, crime, homelessness, European chaos. In terms of foreign policy, they're only up because they have everybody from Jimmy Kimmel with social media algorithms to the New York Times, the Washington Post, I mean, every conceivable advantage. If they didn't have all of that, and the American Garland, who actually is Biden's personal attorney, who actually is the personal attorney of Democrats, they said the whole Bill Barr Sessions was the worst attorney general of all time. Bill Barr didn't back Trump on most things. But imagine if Trump had raided the house of Bill or Hillary or Hunter or anyone else. Could you imagine if Bill Barr did that? Merrick Garland did that? Because informant told somebody at the Bureau? What if an informant told you? We're the informants with Democrats. Gee, it's so funny how there's never any informants, but they're always this private servers and shady business deals, and 150 suspicious financial transactions. And I want a Hillary Trump 2024. I think that's going to happen too. It's going to be fantastic. I can't wait. I pray every day for Hillary Clinton to run. It would be so wonderful for so many reasons. I'd obviously vote for Trump. I think Trump would be victorious. But the Democrats need Hillary Clinton. She's the only candidate they have mashed potato brains. Are you kidding? Get real. And believe me, for all that liberals and all the ones who knew where they meant, they will vote if you told them to vote for if the Democratic nominee was the Pirates of the Caribbean animatronic whoa, Pirates of the Caribbean and it's like an animatronic robot from the 80s. They voted for that thing. They'll vote for anyone they're told to vote for. Democratic voters, highly educated, wonderful, morally superior, are born to vote blue no matter who. If they don't vote Democrat, they'll lose friends, family, they'll get kicked out of Facebook groups, it'll be like an abomination. So they can't think for themselves. They have to vote Democrat. Even if it leads to 8.5% median wage medium, real wages down 8.5%. Might God Almighty, how much money are you going to get from your paycheck just to stop Trump from tweeting? Is it worth it? But it is worth it for Democrats? They don't care. They're passing literature in New York about what happens in the event of a nuclear conflict. They're totally ready for it as long as Trump isn't tweeting. And that's not really hyperbole. They actually are totally fine with it. Could you imagine if Trump was presiding over all this nonsense? Can you imagine an economy in decline and invade a country invaded in Europe that was supposed to have taken place under Trump? We had record low unemployment, record low Black and Latino unemployment. We had household median incomes at record highs. We had poverty at record lows. But Trump should do a better job explaining all of that. Those are all facts. CNN talked about poverty to record low and household median incomes at record highs without $10 trillion pumped into the economy. Alright folks, that's the update. Have a great weekend.